So thank you everyone for joining us today. Today we are going to be going over kind of getting started in Life QI with a collaborative. So we're looking at this very much from a team's perspective. So how we can navigate the system to get to our work and also what that collaborative structure or program structure looks like. A couple of little bits of housekeeping before I really get into it. So all participants are muted and camera off, but we absolutely would love questions. So at any point, if there's anything you would like to ask or you need to check with us, please pop it in the chat or use the Q&A function. And my lovely colleague Lewis on the line will be able to help, and we will stop at logical points to check in for any questions as well. Okay? Brilliant. So to start with, let's think about what a program is in Life QI. So more often than not, we have large pieces of work that might run across a whole organisation involving multiple wards or departments, or across multiple hospitals, or even across a whole region. Within that piece of work, you're going to be working towards a shared aim statement where there may be a measurement strategy. So you're all working on the same measures and working towards a shared common goal. And that's where we use the collaborative or program structure in Life QI. Now, before I really dig into it, I'm just going to go over some terminology. So when I talk around about a program or a collaborative, that's your overarching piece of work. Okay. Then underneath that, we have teams, which would be the teams, the sites that are taking part in that collaborative, whether that's a hospital, whether that's a ward, whether that's a department. And then each of those teams then have a project that they work on. So let me just show you a really quick image, which will hopefully help with that. So as I said, at the top here, we have our program, our collaborative, which is what everybody is working towards, that shared aim. Underneath, we have our teams, which could be, as I said, our sites, our departments, our hospitals, and then each of those have their own project space that they can work on. Within that project space, that's where we enter our data, we look at our driver diagram, and we also run our PDSAs. So in today's webinar, we're going to be having a look at it from the team's perspective. So we're going to learn how to navigate to our project, how we would enter our data into the measures that have been laid out for us, and also how we would run PDSAs. And then at the end, we're going to have a look at what that program collaborative structure actually looks like and how we can navigate to that as well. So let me jump into the system. So this is our Life QI start page. So when we have signed up through either our invite link or self-signed up to the system, and we've been verified by our organizational admin, we will log in and be greeted by our start page. Start pages are always unique to us. This is a way for us to be able to access all the individual work that we are actively participating in. Now, if you have been invited to take part as part of a collaborative, the first thing we need to do upon signing into Life QI is actually accept the invitation. So on your start page down here, you will have an invite, which will then link you to your work once you have accepted it. So that is the first thing that we need to do in order to access our project underneath the program that we are working in. Now, there are a couple of different ways that we can access our individual project space. So the first is through our project teams here. Now, bear in mind, you'll have as many as, depending on how many kind of programs you're involved in. So if you're involved in one program, you'll just have one project team showing. If you have two, you'll have two, etc. So you can either access your team's work through your project team here, or also through your project list on your start page as well. It will show there for you. Another area that we can access our work is through the project tab on the left-hand side navigation bar. So for this example, I'm going to go in through my project team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. Then this is going to open up our really nice welcome message. And this is I do recommend going in this way because more than not gives you useful information. So we can see our welcome message here. saying what program we're in. More often than not, it's got kind of a contact detail if we need help with any aspect. It's also then got the members of your team listed down here. Then what you'll notice on the right-hand side of the page is your project. And this is where we want to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in to my active project on the right-hand side of my page here. This has now taken me through to my team's project underneath my preterm birth collaborative, okay? So what you'll notice when you first come into your project is that you will more often than not have a driver diagram laid out for you, but this may not be the case. You will, again, more often than not, have measures laid out for you. So these are set measures that are being flown down from the program level for you all to be collecting data on. Then what happens with that data is that flows back up to our program level to give our aggregate to see how we're doing across the program as a whole. And we'll dive into that in a little bit more detail later. You'll also see a space for you to be able to run your PDSAs, and sometimes there are already PDSAs laid out for you, and these might be demo PDSAs or one that they know they want you to run as part of this collaborative. So just a little bit of navigation of your project itself. This here is called a glance bar, and this gives you top-level information about your project. So where we are with our progress score. Now, for those of you that don't know, a progress score is based on the IHI progress score scale. It's a score from 0.5 to 5.0 going up in 0.5 increments, and it's designed to show where you are within the life cycle of your project. And this is down to you as the project team to update as you progress your project. We'll be able to see if we've got a driver diagram laid out for us. We'll be able to see how many measures and whether we've got any PDSAs. At the bottom, we'll have the details section. So this is where we'll be able to see the aim that has been flown down from the program level. We may already have a problem and a rationale added in, but also that may be blank, and using the edit button up here, you'll be able to add in those details there. So what you can do when you come into LifeQI and look at your project, you can come and take a look at all of the different details. So you could dive in here and have a look at your driver diagram, so you can see what drivers and change ideas have been laid out for you as part of this program. Probably the most important part is your measures and chart area. And this is where you're going to be able to access the measures that have been laid out for you by the program to collect your data. So by coming into the measures and charts tab along the top here, I can now see that I've got two outcome measures, a process measure and a balance measure that I need to be collecting data for. So the first thing that I recommend doing when coming into your measures and charts area is actually opening up each measure and understanding exactly what it is that you should be doing within that measure. So let's have a look at this outcome measure here. If I click into that measure, it's going to open that up for me. And then within my measure, I'm going to see that I have two different tabs here. I have my chart section where I can start to build out my data, add my data and build out my charts. But I also have my plan tab here. And this is where you're going to get all that really important information about the data that they're expecting you to collect within your collaborative or your program. So if we scroll down, we can see the title of our measure. We can also see our operational definition. So what is the data we're collecting? Here we've got a numerator and a denominator, so our count and our total. We also have our data collection plan. So who is collecting our data and how regularly should we be putting that data into LifeQI? So we can see here that we need to be adding our data in on a monthly basis, okay? We also have the ability to see which chart we're using and the type of measure. But this is the same in every single measure that will be on your project. So you can come into your measures, you can have a look at this plan tab and really understand what data it is you're capturing, how you're capturing it, and how often you should be reporting on it underneath this program. So if we come back to the charts area, this is where we're actually going to add in our data. Now, each program or collaborative is different. Some may ask you to add in baseline data if you've been collecting this for a while. Some of which that you're participating in may just be starting the data collection from now. But we do have two ways that we can add data into LifeQI. Now, the first one of those is thinking about the example if we have baseline data. We actually have the ability to copy and paste data over from an Excel file straight into LifeQI to make it that little bit easier for you to add in all of your baseline data. So let's have a look at how to do that. First things first, we're going to click on Add a Chart. We can now see that this pop-out has come on the screen, which is telling us to configure our chart. Now, one thing to note is with the chart name, any chart you create within a measure will automatically be given the name of your measure, okay? So if you want to give your chart another name, you absolutely can, but just bear in mind that it will also be named with the measure name as well, okay? So I'm just going to call this test chart. Now, in order to add our data, the first thing I'm going to do is add a row here. Now, we want to leave this blank because we are going to be copying and pasting from our Excel. So from here, we're going to come over to our Excel file where I've got all of my baseline data. I'm then going to highlight the data I want to bring over, and I'm going to copy that. Now, while we're on here, it's important to note that your data format in Excel needs to be the same format that LifeQI is expecting. So for example, we know that we have a P chart, which is expecting our count, our numerator, and our total, our denominator. We also know that we're doing it on a monthly frequency. So our data in Excel will need to reflect that structure, as you can see here. So we have our monthly dates, we have our count, our numerator, and our total, our denominator. Now, if I tried to copy and paste this data here over with just a count, it wouldn't translate into LifeQI. Okay, so it's just worth bearing that in mind. So now I've copied that data, I'm going to come back to LifeQI. I'm going to right-click in my empty time period box, and I'm going to hit paste. Now, what you're going to see is that all of my data is automatically brought over to LifeQI for me. What I can do then is I can hit create chart. LifeQI is now going to create my P chart for me with that data that I've just copy and pasted over. So as I mentioned earlier, you can see that my chart title has the title of the measure here, and then the title that I gave it is in brackets at the end. Now, if I click on that box, it's going to open up my chart for me. We can see that LifeQI has created my chart, my P chart. We can scroll down and see my data table, and we will also notice that it will outline any special cause variations shown within our data along the top of our chart here. Okay, so that is the first way that we can add in our data. Now, the second way we can add it in is let's come back to another measure and look at the example if we don't have any baseline data, or if we do, but we just want to manually add that baseline data in. So let's come and have a look at another measure. So let's go for this process measure here. In the same way I did before, I'm clicking into my measure. You'll have to excuse my internet, it is lagging a bit today. When I'm in my process measure, we can see my charts tab, and again, my plan tab, if you'd like to go and have a look at what it is you're capturing. Now, in the same way I did before, I'm going to add a chart, and then I'm going to add a row. But this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually add that data. So I'm going to click on this date box here, and I'm going to choose the relevant month that I'm reporting for. I'm then going to add in my count, my numerator, and my total, my denominator. And I keep clicking add a row until I've added all of my different data points in that I need to when creating my chart. It may be that you only have one data point, and that's absolutely fine. Just add as many rows as you need for your chart creation. Now, once I've got that in, I'm going to click Create a Chart. And in the same way as before, our chart has now been created for us. I can open that up, I can look at my data table, and I can see my chart here. Okay? So nice and easy for you to be able to create your charts within your measures. So now you've kind of done your first reporting period. You're now coming in the following month and you need to add your data for the next month's reporting period. In the same way that we've just navigated into our measures, what we would do is we'd come back into LifeQI, we would come to our project space and we'd come to our measures and charts area. We would then come into the measure that we need to add our data for. Once that's opened, we click on this box here, so our chart here, so it opens up. We're then going to hit the edit button. We can then scroll down, hit add a row, and we will then add in our next data points. Okay. Once we've added that, you're going to see that LifeQI wants to redraw your chart, so click that button, and it's now added that extra data point there for us. Okay. So that's how you would come in on a regular basis and add in the next data point, whether it's on a weekly, daily, or monthly basis. Now, one thing I do like to highlight here, and for a lot of collaboratives, we use kind of P charts for getting that percentage. Now, I do like to note that if you are taking part in a program in a collaborative, and there are any P charts that you need to be collecting data for, we encourage you not to add in a 0, 0 data point. So a 0 count and a 0 denominator. The reason being is that you can't make a percent out of 0 and 0, okay? So technically, all that's telling us is that we had no data for that month. So what we recommend in those situations is miss out that week or that month's data point. You can actually then annotate your chart to say that within this month, we had no data. So let's have a look at how to do that. So click Edit. Now, I had no data, so I'm going to add a row, but I had no data for April because it was a 0, 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to May. I'm then going to add in my next data point. In the same way as before, I'm going to redraw my chart. And you can now see that we've missed a month. What I would also then do is annotate it. So by clicking on any data point within your chart, you can leave a note. So I can now say no data for April. Simply click off that box and we can now see that we have a note attached to that data point. Okay. So just a little bit of a tip there if you are using a P chart and you do have any 0, 0 data points. Okay. So the next thing we're going to have a look at is how to run our PDSAs within our project. But before I jump onto that, I'm just going to check in, Lewis, and see if there's been any questions at all.
Thank you, Sophie. Yes, there has been one. How is the progress score calculated and what is a ramp, which I'm guessing is PDSA ramp?
I'm muted. Very, very good question. So let's look at the progress score first. So the progress score is down to you as a project team to update as you progress your project. Okay, it's not an automatic calculation. So if you're not familiar with what the different scores mean, if you click on this change score button here, it's going to give you all of the different scores that we have. And it's going to give you an explanation as to what each of them are, okay? So you can come through and you can see, okay, well, we've got modest improvement, or we've started testing changes, but we can't see any improvement. So each time you come into LifeQI, you should be checking where you are against the progress score and updating it as necessary, okay? So once we've chosen the right score, we then click change score. And that will then update our progress score on our glance bar, okay? Now, in regards to the ramp question, what we'll do is we will have a look at that when we are doing our PDSAs in just a second. But you can see here that my progress score has now changed because I've updated it manually, okay? So, PDSAs. This is where we'll be running our PDSAs against kind of our change ideas in Life QI. And as I mentioned, you may have some that are already there for you, but it may be that there aren't any and you need to kind of run these yourself. So the way that we actually create these is by hitting new PDSA ramp. Now, very good question around what is a ramp. So essentially, within Life QI, we can run multiple cycles of a PDSA, which ramps them. So if we think about kind of at the end, whether we want to, you know, like what's next, what's going to happen next? Are we going to adapt it? Are we going to adopt it? Or are we going to abandon it? If we're going to adapt that PDSA, we can run another cycle, which is effectively ramping that PDSA up. So in Life QI, we create a ramp, and then within that, we can create multiple cycles. Now, hopefully it'll make a bit more sense when I show you, but that's what we mean in regards to the PDSA ramp, okay? So not using my imagination much here, but let's go test PDSA. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this setup wizard to create our PDSA. So what's the aim? What is the aim of our PDSA? Which change idea does it link to? Okay, because we want to start to understand that holistic view of our project. What is interlinked and what is affecting what, essentially? So on the next page, who's responsible for this PDSA? Is it me, or is it someone else on my project team that is in Life QI? So it might be that my colleague Erica is the one responsible for this project, this PDSA, sorry. When is this taking place? When is it starting? And where? Is it a specific ward or location? Next box, what is our plan? What are we going to do? We also then have the ability to create tasks within our PDSA, okay? Now, I find this super helpful. I don't know about everyone else, but I am the type of person that has notes on my computer, notes on my pad, emails flagged, kind of Trello board going. So I find this really, really helpful when I'm running my projects to be able to keep everything together and keep it all within one place, okay? So you can absolutely build out a task list here if you want to. You can assign those to people that are on Life QI within your project, and you can track and manage them as you go through. Now, on to the next page, what is our prediction? And then we can also link a measure. So which measure is this relating to? And then we hit create our PDSA, okay? So what we've done there is we have essentially created our first cycle within our PDSA ramp. So the way that a PDSA looks in Life QI is the top section is the whole plan. So everything we've just filled out. So the title, what we're aiming to achieve, what our overview and notes are, and what our prediction is. All of that forms our plan. We have the ability to link more measures or delete the measures we've linked if we've done, so delete the linking if we've linked the wrong one. And then at the bottom, we have our do study act element. So this is where we're going to add in what happened, how did it compare to my prediction, and what are we going to do next? So by clicking edit, we can edit any of the details at the top here, but we can also add in our what happened, how did it compare, and what is next. And this is what we were talking about earlier with that kind of adapt, adopt, abandon. So if we do want to adapt it, And we do think it went really well, but if we make a couple of tweaks and we run this again, we actually think we're going to see even more improvement. So thinking about an example for reducing pressure sores, it might be that your first PDSA was to get patients out of bed twice a day. And we're like, great, we're seeing improvement, but we think we can get greater improvement if we run this again and we get patients out of bed 4 times a day. So that would then be a new cycle that you're running. So what we can do is once we've filled out our details and we've said, right, we're going to make a slight iteration and run this again, we can click here and we can create a new cycle. Now, this is exactly the same process that we've just gone through, but you're just going to change any details. So the aim's probably going to be the same. People may be the same. But what's our plan? How is it changing? What are we doing differently? Sorry about my terrible live typing. It's always the way, isn't it? And then you go on to the next. You can change your prediction if you want. And then in the same way we did before, we create that cycle. And we now have 2 PDSA cycles within our ramp. Okay, you can see here, currently on cycle 2 out of 2. In the same way, we can scroll down, check our details and add more information. And what we can also do through this actions button here is we can go on to previous cycles within this PDSA ramp. Okay. So jumping back to my PDSA list here, we can now see that I have 2 PDSA ramps, both of which have 2 cycles. This one is linked to our develop optimal flow process change idea, and this one actually isn't linked to a change idea. We can see that both of the PDSA ramps have 2 cycles, one of which is completed because all of those boxes are coloured in, and then one which is just on the plan stage as these little segments here are greyed out. Okay, I hope that helped with the question of kind of what a PDSA ramp is, but just checking in before I jump on to the next bit, whether we've got any further questions on PDSAs or measures at all.
Nothing's coming at the moment, Sophie.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, brilliant. So this hopefully has been a good overview of your project space itself. So the area that you as a team will be working on within this collaborative. Now, there's a couple of other things that I'll show you quickly on your project before we go and have a look at what that overarching program or collaborative space looks like and how you can utilize that as well. Okay. So a couple of things to note is on the right-hand side of your page, you will see that we have a document area. So our nice little filing cabinet icon, as I like to call it. Now within here, you have the ability to upload documents, but there also might be some important documents in there that your collaborative team have already kind of put in there for you with relevant materials or your measurement strategy, whatever it might be. So always have a look in your document area to see if there's anything there for you. We also have this super handy megaphone icon. So this is a way for you to contact your whole project team. The first time you're writing here and you click notify project team, everybody on the project is going to get an email notification saying, hey, Sophie just posted in this project, go and check it out. Okay. Then what's going to happen when that's been used? You'll see that a project notice board will automatically be created within the project itself. Now, when you come into this project notice board, you'll have a little option to subscribe to that discussion. Now, if you would like to be notified every single time somebody posts within that megaphone and within this notice board discussion, you can click subscribe and then you will get notified every single time somebody posts in there, okay? If you don't wish to get notified every time, don't worry about subscribing. You can just check this project notice board every time you come into LifeQI. You'll be able to see a flow of the messages and any files that have been attached to any of the comments. Perfect. So now let's think about navigating to that overarching collaborative program and also what we can see at that level and why we might be using a collaborative, a program in LifeQI. So if we come back to our start page on the left-hand navigation bar, We can access it through our project team here by clicking on that. And then at the top, you'll have this little blue bar that says part of the X program. If you click on that, that is going to take us to our overarching program or collaborative, okay? So it looks quite similar. We have our tabs along the top for our program. We have our glance bar here, but you will notice a slight difference. How many projects in total within this program and how many teams. You'll also see the overarching details of the program, so the overarching aim here. Now, the reason we use the program structure in LifeQI is the ability to flow down projects to multiple teams, multiple sites, and get that data aggregation. Now, if we're all working towards a shared aim, we want to see not just improvement at individual team level, but improvement as a whole. We are all working together to increase by 25% or more the accessibility of, or whatever the aim may be of this program. So by using this structure, we're enabling individual sites to collect their data, seeing an automatic flow up to program level, which is then going to automatically calculate our aggregate so we can see how we are doing as a collective. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So if we come in to this measures and charts section along the top of our program, we can now see the same measures as before, okay? So let's come in to our top outcome measure here. Now, what you're going to be able to see is each individual project chart, but most importantly, our aggregate chart at the bottom. So we're able to track as a collective how we are doing against this measure, whether we're seeing improvement, whether we're not, any special cause in our data, and also kind of any notes that have been added, also any PDSAs that may have been linked to data, okay? So this is just a really good way for you to be able to understand how we're doing as a whole. Now, jumping back to the main area here, another thing around kind of programs and collaboratives is encouraging that participation across sites and that shared learning, really. It's always good to learn from each other. It might be that another team that's on the collaborative has just run an incredible PDSA and it's really helped them see improvement in one of their measures. We can learn from that. We can go, oh, is that something that we could implement within our department or within our hospital? So by using this program structure, we're able to encourage that shared learning across multiple sites. Now, through this project tab here, we're going to have a list of all of the individual separate projects that are participating within this program, okay? So on here, you can come through and you can have a look at other sites' projects. We can take a look at, you can't edit any of the details, you can't actively participate in them, but you could have a look at their PDSAs and kind of just see whether there's anything you can take from what they're doing. Now, it probably is important to note that some collaboratives, some programs actually lock down this element because of privacy reasons and data kind of agreements. So not every single program will have the ability to see each other's work. It depends whether the kind of people running the collaborative have requested it to be locked down or whether that shared access is open. So that is something that you'll need to check with the leaders, the people running your collaborative, okay? But it's definitely worth me showing you that that is there. So now the other thing to see at the overarching program level is very similar to at the project. We have an area for discussions and we have the megaphone icon. And more often than not, collaborative or program kind of leaders will utilize this function as a way to communicate with all of the teams within this piece of work. In exactly the same way as I described for the project, the first time somebody posts within this megaphone, it is going to send email notification to all members of the program. So that's all of the members across every project underneath the program. Now, in order for you to receive notifications every time that someone posts in there, you will need to navigate to the program as we are now, come into this discussion tab, and then subscribe, as you can see here, to this notice board. And then that way you will be getting notifications every time that somebody comes in and posts to this notice board. Okay. Again, don't need to subscribe if you don't want to. Just remember to check it sporadically in case there have been any important notices that have come on to the program notice board. Okay. So they're really the main things that I wanted to show you today. There's a couple of other things that we should probably discuss. Now, if I want to come back to my project space quickly. So I'm just going to come to my start page, and then we're going to navigate back to our project through our team here. So back to our individual project space where we were earlier. Now, it might be that you have had, excuse me, sorry. You have had 4 measures flown down to you as part of this piece of work. But it might be that as you start building out your change ideas, that actually you need to be measuring other things. There might be other process or balance measures that you need to be adding to your project. You can absolutely do that. You are not only limited to the measures that have been flown down for you. You can absolutely create your own measures as you go along, as you progress your project, but it is worth saying that they will not flow up to program level because they have not been laid out for you, okay? But the way we do that is through the measures and charts section here, and you can click new measure. Now, in the same way that we had that really helpful kind of setup wizard for our PDSA, we have that for any new measures that we want to create. So it might be that I have a new measure here that I need to add. It's a process measure. I can give it an operational definition, so describing in quantifiable terms what it is that I'm measuring. Our data collection plan, so what, where, who, when. We then need to decide our chart type and our data collection frequency. So these are really important if we are creating our own measures, okay? We need to know which chart we're using, and we do have a nice little wizard here with all of our different chart types in case you're not sure which chart type to use, and then our data collection frequency. Now, the reason they're important is they're not changeable once you have created this measure, okay? So we need to make sure that we're getting those right when we create it. If we don't, we will just create a new measure, so it's not the end of the world. And we can then link a driver if relevant and create that measure, okay? And then that measure will be there, ready for us to add in any other data. So it's just worth highlighting that as well. So hopefully that has given you a really good overview of kind of what a collaborative or program is in LifeQI, why we use them in order to get that kind of collaborative space and that aggregation towards that shared aim, how to navigate to your individual project area for your team where you'd be adding your own data and your own PDSAs, and also then how we can navigate to that program area if you're allowed as part of your collaborative to have a look at what else is happening. Now, I've covered a lot, and often the questions come when you're using LifeQI. So just so you know, we are here to support you throughout your whole usage, okay? We have a dedicated help team who, although I'm biased, are absolutely fabulous, and they are on hand to help you with any questions that you have, whether that be technical or whether that just be like, I have forgotten what I need to do. You can absolutely reach out to them through our email address, which Lewis will pop into the chat for you, or through our live chat button, which I'll show you shortly. We also have located throughout the platform these get help with links in blue on the top right of the page. If we click on any of those, it's going to take us through to our help center and the relevant area for where you are in Life QI. Now, we have a plethora of help articles for every element of Life QI. These help articles have tutorial videos or short GIFs to show you what to do, as well as step-by-step instructions. So if you do find that you're a bit stuck and you can't remember, you can come to our help center here, you can search for answers, or you can come into the relevant area and look for the help that you need. And if we have a look at, let's come back and go into, let's have a look at how to create a chart. So come into the measures and chart section, creating a chart. You can now see that we have a full tutorial video at the top, as well as step-by-step instructions. Okay, so take advantage of this as well, because it's absolutely here to help you. And as I mentioned, you'll also have this live chat button located at the bottom right-hand corner of every page in Life QI. From here, you can also search the help articles. You can create a ticket. You can give us feedback. We love feedback, so we encourage you to do so. And you can also start a live chat. So like I said, that will come directly through to our dedicated help team, and they'll be able to guide you with any questions that you have. Brilliant. So I really hope that that was helpful for everybody. Like I said, when you get in there and if you need any questions, please reach out to us and let us know. We will absolutely be sending a recording of this around, and it will also be available on our website in the webinars area. So if you want to share this with other team members within your collaborative, please do. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day and a fabulous Christmas period when it arrives. I hope you're all managing to get some time off. And thank you so much for joining, everybody. Take care all. Bye.